If you told me a week ago that the Utah Jazz would have back-to-back wins over the Pistons and the Spurs, I would not believe you. They are first in points off screens and sixth in points off cuts per game. Look at this. They make it look way too easy. Markkanen's going to set the screen for McCulloch right here, and McCulloch's going to cut to the basket. Nurkic has the ball in his hands. He's a great big passer, and they make this look way too easy. The Pistons low man was not here in time, and there was no one else that was able to rotate, and that's just a free 2 points. Most of the players on the Jazz are also a whiz in the open court, and they have great transition defense. So you'll see as none of the Pistons defense actually gets back, the Jazz get a 3-on-1, and then he's got 3 options. He could dish it, he could pass it back to Keyonte George, just so much he could do here. And while the Utah Jazz have a lot of key players that can create their own shot, they really can make it a lot simpler. So Kevin Love sets the pick, and like I said, they're first in points off of screens, which is in part due to how big their lineup is. Keyonte George is going to get downhill, and because the Pistons' big man is not hedging, meaning they're not trying to block off the gap here, Isaiah Collier is going to notice this and immediately skate the pass ahead for Keyonte George, who is just as fast as light. And between Keyonte George and Lauri Markkanen, these off-screen threes happen so commonly. So Keyonte George is just going to fly off the screen, and the Pistons' big men did not hedge at all, which is also a common theme in the Spurs game. So what that means is that they're dropping back, trying to protect the drive because Keyonte George is such a driving threat, but that just gives up the three. And here's literally the exact same play, but with Nurkic as a screener, and this is in the Spurs game. So as you can see, the reason that he got this three is because Victor Wembanyama is not really worried about Nurkic's shot, so he's playing all the way in the paint to try to block against the drive. Keyonte George, however, is a good three-point shooter, and Julian Champagnie is not going to be able to curl off of that screen fast enough to block the shot. No other teammate is going to step up to help the shot, so Keyonte George is going to get that open shot as long as Victor Wembanyama does not want to step up on a Nurkic. This happened multiple times throughout the game to both Lauri Markkanen and Keyonte George off of Nurkic or Kevin Love screens. So remember, they're first in points off screen, and this is why. Walter Clayton Jr. is going to receive the handoff here and have Dylan Harper and Keldon Johnson defending him, who just cannot get around the screen fast enough. No one really stops to drive. Keldon Johnson just ends up fouling Walter Clayton, trying to prevent the shot, but this night, the Utah Jazz were just hitting everything. We still need to talk about what the Jazz are doing wrong in defense, though. They're first at home in points per game, however, they're like 25th or something in defense. And it really comes down to a few simple reads. First and foremost, their big men seem to be struggling a lot in the pick and roll. So here, Wembanyama is going to set a pick and roll for Stephon Castle, and Nurkic is going to have the task of trying to defend 2 perimeter threats who can both get downhill. What he has to do here is hedge to block off Stephon Castle's drive and then fall back to prevent Wembanyama from slipping. On top of this, the rest of the Jazz lineup has to understand that both of these people can very easily get into the paint. They have to be ready to take the low man position. To Kevin Love's credit, he is. It's just not enough for the Spurs because Wembanyama ends up getting the slip and no one ends up being in his way, and there's not many ways, even if you do have a low man, to stop that sort of drive. And that really comes down to Nurkic just being in the wrong position. He was kind of just hanging out in this middle section here whenever he needed to be up and bodying Victor Wembanyama. Here's another example of not being able to defend the pick and roll properly. I really want you to watch Nurkic and Devin Vassell and look where Devin Vassell can get without being contested. I really want you to try to see what Nurkic is actually doing in this pick and roll. And I mean, he really let Devin Vassell just kind of walk down the lane. So right here, Wembanyama is setting the screen. Nurkic has to hedge, and then this big man has to step up and take Wembanyama before he slips downhill. This doesn't end up happening, and Vassell kind of has a lane cleared for him. And the reason this defender has to go over the top of the screen is because Vassell's got like a 40% three-point shot. So both of these players have to defend the pick and roll properly to take away the three-point shot and the drive, and that's just not what happened. Even right here, you've got 2 Spurs players in one spot, which should mean that one defender can come and help on the pick and roll. But no help ends up arriving, and Vassell is given a free 2 points. I mean, for as good as he is on offense, Nurkic looks a little lost in the pick and roll. Victor Wembanyama is setting a screen here. Nurkic has to defend Stephon Castle on this hedge while Keontae George comes over, which isn't really that hard because Victor Wembanyama kind of slips the screen a little bit. He's trying to get downhill, so Keontae George should have a much easier time getting over the top. So all Nurkic should really have to do is kind of just follow Stephon Castle as he kind of waltzes downhill. He'll plant his 2 feet in the paint and do something like he normally does, but he kind of commits a little bit too hard to Stephon Castle, and Wembanyama gets downhill. McCulloch sees that. He's already coming up. He's kind of the only one that realizes, the 7'5" demon getting a slip screen all the way to the basket is going to just be an easy 2 points. Nurkic is just lost in the pick and roll. This is one of the main reasons why the Jazz have a struggling defense. On this set play by the Pistons, I low-key got no clue what Sensabaugh was doing. All of the Jazz should be able to either switch or stay with their man accordingly to get around this little cluster that they've built here. However, Sensabaugh here just does not realize one of the Pistons players is going to go to the wing, and he is by far the closest one to him. So let's take a look at what happens. Like, he's pointing to 2 different people. I don't really know what he thought was going to happen. I think maybe he thought Saddiq Bey was going to set a screen here and was trying to defend that. Or maybe he was worried about these corner players, even though they're all in one spot and could probably be defended by like one person. But this is what's killing the Jazz defense. Poor rotations and a little bit of a lazy defense. What should be happening here is he should be switching over to here, and then every person's covered. Both of these corner players can help on drives, because it does look like this Pistons player is about to get a step. But overall, this is just poor, lazy defense, and this is what's killing the Jazz. Do you know who this is? This is Karis LeVert, their shooting guard, getting an open 3. How are you letting the shooting guard get an open 3? Let's look what happened. All right, so right now, Paul Reed's got the ball. He's driving this way. Javonte Green is going to come down instead of pick for Karis LeVert. Lauri Markkanen's going to switch on to Karis LeVert as he walks around this way. And then Lauri Markkanen's then going to have to defend a screen by Paul Reed. All right, so now you've got Jusuf Nurkic, who I don't think has ever hedged a screen in his life. He's not going to be coming up here. And you've got Lauri Markkanen going under. That's asking for a 3-pointer in your eye. This is bad defense by the Jazz, and it's what's holding them back from being a really great team this season. Lauri Markkanen's athletic. He looks like a proper white boy. He could definitely get over this screen. I don't understand why he's trying to fight under the screen and why he believes Jusuf Nurkic is going to be able to contest this 3 by Karis LeVert. I didn't really think I'd ever say this, but the Jazz look like the up-and-coming team for the NBA. Ever since the Karl Malone and John Stockton era, there's not been a lot of heat around the Jazz, but they've got a very solid lineup with Jusuf Nurkic, Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George. They've got a really good core. Whenever I'm looking at their team, I see a really good offense, and I see simple defensive mistakes leading to fouls and bad rotations and open 3s. I really do feel like the Jazz are really close to becoming an actual threat and a playoff contender. I guess in the coming months we'll see though.